Hey, what's going on, guys? Alex here with TFL, and sitting next to me,
Case. And Alex and I are both Jeep guys, so we are very excited to bring you some news on the new Grand Cherokee. This is the two-row version of it, not the extended wheelbase L.
Yeah, we saw the extended wheelbase one, the first ever three-row Grand Cherokee, not too long ago, and we knew this day was coming, but now we have all the details for you, all the trims, all the specs. So let's jump right into the new 5th generation Grand Cherokee. It's a super popular vehicle. Did you know that there were nearly 6 million Grand Cherokees sold in the US alone since its introduction in '92?
I did know that because I wrote it into our notes.
Crazy.
Yeah, that's a lot of Grand Cherokees.
That's a lot of Grand Cherokees. So this is a big vehicle for Jeep, and it's a big deal. It's big news. So let's just right off the bat get into some of the differences between this and the extended wheelbase version, because from the looks of it, they look to be pretty similar vehicles. So just starting off with some of the dimensions, it has a 5-inch shorter wheelbase than the L version Grand Cherokee, and it's also 11.4 inches shorter in terms of overall length at 193.5 inches.
It is, however, the same width, but that reduced length is nice, especially when we get into design. I think it's a much better looking vehicle. A couple other important highlights for the two-row Grand Cherokee is that there is the first ever electrified Grand Cherokee with the new 4xe model, and they've also improved the off-road capability of the Trailhawk. You can spec the new Grand Cherokee with a 357 horsepower Hemi, and you can also, of course, get the 4xe drivetrain, but standard on all models is the Pentastar V6. You can also pick between Quadra-Track 1 all-wheel drive, Quadra-Track 2, and Quadra-Drive 2.
Yeah, those are the all-wheel drive systems that Jeep has been known for. The same names were used in the previous Grand Cherokee, but you do get some new stuff with this all-new 5th generation Grand Cherokee. One of the most notable things is a front axle disconnect, so this can actually go into two-wheel drive. It does it automatically when it detects that it doesn't need to send power to all 4 wheels. And you also have a sway bar disconnect, which is something completely new for the Grand Cherokee as well.
Now, you can spec a Quadra-Lift air suspension on the new Grand Cherokee, and that has semi-active damping. With that air suspension, you get up to 11.3 inches of ground clearance, and on the Trailhawk model, 24 inches of water fording.
And then in terms of towing capability, it varies depending on which engine you spec out the new Grand Cherokee with, but if you go with the 5.7 Hemi, you're going to get up to 7,200 pounds of max towing, the Pentastar 6,200 pounds, and on the 4xe up to 6,000 pounds of max towing.
With the new Grand Cherokee two-row, you have 144.6 cubic feet of interior volume, which is 4.1 cubic feet more than the previous generation. You also have 37.7 cubic feet of cargo space in the rear, and that's 1.4 more than the previous generation. There's also a lot of different trims in the new Grand Cherokee. So there's the Laredo, the Altitude, the Limited, Overland, Trailhawk, Summit, and Summit Reserve. And again, the Pentastar is standard in all of those, while the 5.7 Hemi is available in the Overland trim and up, and the 4xe is available in the Limited trim and up.
Yeah, and we'll get to talking about the interior in just a minute here, but the main theme, or one of the main themes you're going to notice with this new Grand Cherokee is a focus on how luxurious the interior is. We drove the L version not too long ago. It was a Summit, and it was super, super nice inside. And it's going to feel the same exact way in the shorter wheelbase version, especially with, those high-end Summit Reserves. They are really nice on the interior. But let's go into the Trailhawk a little bit and talk about what you get with the most off-road capable version of the new Grand Cherokee. So like I mentioned, sway bar disconnect, that's class exclusive. So this is the only full-size SUV in the segment to have a sway bar disconnect. Super cool. That is only available with the Quadra-Drive 2 all-wheel drive system. You're also going to get an electronic limited slip differential. All the approach and departure angles, ground clearance, articulation, all of that has been improved when you compare this to the 4th generation Grand Cherokee. So better off-road capability, always good to see.
You also get Jeep Select Terrain System, which gives you modes for different types of surfaces. And you have modes for rock, you have sand and mud, snow, auto, and sport. The Trailhawk also gives you 18-inch wheels, which should give you a little bit of extra sidewall with those Goodyear Wrangler Territory all-terrain tires. And there's a Trailhawk hood decal, which has a pretty cool look to it, sets it apart a little.
Yeah, it's easy to tell that you have the off-road version of the Grand Cherokee, and also on the Trailhawk you're going to get some painted tow hooks and some other accent colors thrown in there. On the standard version of the Grand Cherokee, it's going to be red. On the 4xe, it's blue, as you can see on the one behind me, and I think that is a sweet look, especially in this silver color with the black roof and the blue accents. I think it's super sharp. I love the look of it.
Now let's move on to the 4xe. Like I mentioned, the first electrified Grand Cherokee. You get 57 mpg E rating for the fuel mileage, 440 miles of total range. An estimated 25 of those miles can be all electric. And the Trailhawk 4xe apparently did the Rubicon Trail in all electric mode, according to Jeep. Power output is 375 horsepower and 470 pound-feet of torque, and backing up your electric system is a 2-liter turbo 4-cylinder. So very familiar to what we get with the Wrangler, also familiar to the system on the Wrangler 4xe. You have a 17 kilowatt hour battery, which is protected by skid plates, and all the 4xe components are all water sealed, so no worries about getting that stuff wet.
Yeah, it's going to have the same 3 modes as the Wrangler 4xe as well. So you have your standard hybrid mode, which is just going to basically act in an automatic sense and choose between using some battery power and the regular internal combustion engine to get you the best fuel economy. Then you have all electric mode, pretty obvious, shuts off the engine, you're just running on that battery. And then E-save, you press that, and then you're only running on the internal combustion engine. You can save the battery power for later on. We've done some testing with the 4xe Wrangler and didn't get quite the range we were hoping off-road. So
yeah, I did both of the videos where we tested the range on the 4xe Wrangler, and with Nathan, he and I driving down a mix of highway and city driving, we got 26.6 miles of range if I remember right. And then on an off-road trail, it was just a little over 3 miles if I remember right.
So we actually got better on-road than Jeep was claiming. But way worse off-road.
On-road was pretty good. But if Jeep is saying that they did the whole Rubicon Trail in all-electric mode, then we'll believe them. Maybe they've got a slightly less heavy foot than Nathan, which is entirely likely. And then another thing with the 4xe, 47.4 to 1 crawl ratio for off-roading. Now, there's another pretty exciting model here, the Summit Reserve. That's the top of the line. And on these really, really spec'd out Grand Cherokees, you get 16-way power leather seats. You also get a 19-speaker Macintosh audio system, which Jeep is very proud of. And then on the really spec'd out versions, again, you get tons and tons of screens. So let's get into some of the safety and tech features.
Yeah, this is all, everything to do with the interior, safety and tech. They're really pushing hard on safety. But in the center of the front seats, you're going to have the Uconnect 5 system. It has a 10.1-inch display. Like I said, we drove the new Grand Cherokee L, so I had a chance to play around with the system. It's really easy to use. The screen's really crisp. I really like it a lot. And Jeep even claims that this is 5 times faster than the previous generation. I didn't think the previous generation was too slow.
No.
I owned one of them myself, so I don't know if 5 times faster really means much, but hey, that's what Jeep's saying. You can also get over-the-air updates on this and a 10-inch full-color heads-up display in front of the driver.
And then something very unique is that you can get a 10.25-inch passenger display. So whoever is riding shotgun, they have a screen to look at that has access to Amazon Fire TV. So that way they can be entertained. They can also check out some of the camera views. This is similar to the system that's in the Grand Wagoneer that Andre and I went and filmed not too long ago. You also get 10.1-inch rear seat entertainment screens that are hooked up to the same Amazon Fire TV system. So the whole family can go from being in their house watching whatever show they're watching to jumping in the car and watching that same thing on the go.
Tons of screens. I'm a big fan of that. I'm a huge tech nerd, so screens make me happy. But this interior just has a lot of focus on more wood, more real wood around the entire interior, more leather wrapped surfaces than the previous generation. It feels really, really nice. You also get some new things like a wireless phone charger, a digital rear view mirror, and then some safety features like auto emergency braking, blind spot monitoring, and a ton more. There's 110 different safety and security features that are available on this new Grand Cherokee, including active driving assist with a 360 surround view camera and night vision with pedestrian and animal detection. We've seen that in the Grand Wagoneer, the Grand Cherokee L. Now it's here on the standard two-row Grand Cherokee.
One very obvious difference with this new two-row Grand Cherokee is, of course, the design. It's noticeably different from the previous generation. Somewhat evolutionary. You can see that it's still a Grand Cherokee. It's very obvious from the get-go, but I think it's got slightly boxier styling. I think the proportions personally are a lot better in this two-row than they are on the L. The L is very, very long and it can, from certain angles, look a little awkward, but both Alex and I are very excited about the silver 4xe with the gloss black roof like what's on the TV behind him. That is a phenomenal looking color combination.
Yeah, like Case said, it's much more squared off than the previous gen. That's especially noticeable up in the nose area. It's just so flat. There's a big emphasis on those recovery hooks up front. The roof is a little more streamlined than the previous version. It's a little bit of a weird mix between boxed off and round and bubbly, kind of a boxed off look up front.
A little bit of both.
And then a little bit round towards the back end, but I think it's a really sharp looking vehicle, especially in the Trailhawk trims, and especially in the 4xe trim. It just looks really cool, especially with those all-terrain tires, and I hope we can get one off-road soon. It should be pretty capable.
Yeah, Trailhawk with the red tow hooks, 4xe with the blue tow hooks. Tommy would be very happy about that.
Yeah, he would be. He's always complaining about the color of the tow hooks.
Big fan of the painted tow hooks.
At TFL, so he is definitely going to be a big fan of that. When are we going to be seeing these?
So the new Grand Cherokee, the two-row, is going to begin to become available in the fourth quarter of 2021. The 4xe will become available in early 2022, and then globally, this new Grand Cherokee is going to be available later in 2022.
Yeah, so right around the corner, it looks like even though we're in the middle of a massive chip shortage, that Jeep is going to be cranking these out, and they should be arriving on dealership lots this year. If you want the 4xe, you're going to have to wait a little longer. That's the one we're all excited about here at TFL. But yeah, there's all the information you need to know on the new Grand Cherokee. Not really any big surprises. We already saw the three-row version. We were expecting them to shrink down the three-row version and make a two-row, and that's exactly what they did.
So a lot of what we expected, but still exciting. Again, Alex and I are both Jeep guys. He had the previous generation Grand Cherokee. I learned how to drive on a 48 Willys CJ2. So yeah, it's great to see that Jeep is continuing to offer the types of vehicles that people are buying.
Now, Jeep hasn't given us pricing information on the new two-row Grand Cherokee, but we can compare the previous generation and also take a look at the pricing for the new L. So the previous gen two-row Grand Cherokee started at just under 35 grand, and then the new three-row Grand Cherokee starts at just over 38.6. It's like
38,635, and I only know that because I'm reading it.
There you go. So we don't know exact pricing, but I would imagine this is going to start probably somewhere right around 35, 36 grand.
That's a good guess.
So yeah, let us know your thoughts on the new two-row Grand Cherokee down in the comments below. I'm sure we'll get our hands on one as soon as humanly possible. Thanks for watching. Head on over to TFL-studios.com to catch up on all our content. We'll see you in the next video.